Not as much. I've been out of the game. I like when I left this substance abuse council. I focused heavily on finding gigs so I could survive
Yeah.
because brother was broke. But I'm getting back to it.
Good.
It'll be
Good. We'll talk about that. And I think we are live. So we'll just go ahead and pretend that people are watching us. How about that? But
ooh, I
you
love that
go
picture.
right ahead and play your. What video game are you playing?
Oh yeah, it's a Switch. I'm super nerdy. Like if you could see all the toys that I have back here, like this is supposed to be my workspace, and it is like it's like a mullet. It's business in the front and play in the back, right? Just straight party in the back here.
Ah,
So
yeah. I
yeah,
think it's
yeah.
time for the mall to make a big comeback. I don't know. I have
You,
an appointment to get my hair cut tomorrow, so maybe we'll try that.
I mean, you could rock dreads or do the mullet thing. I mean,
I'm the
you're
reason the
versatile.
mullet was in style, Sean. Let me tell you. So, all right, on that note, we do have at least one viewer, so we're going to jump right in here. This is Mac McCullough from Willard Library, live streaming from Burley Corners in Penfield Township. And this is Stories at Sundown. Took a little break over the winter, and we're back, and it's spring. And well, it was spring 2 days ago. Now it's winter again. But hey, we roll with it. It's March, right?
Indeed. I even got the motorcycle out on Saturday just long enough to go. That was about it.
My son at least was cleaning his up, but he didn't get out, but he wanted to. Anyway, my guest tonight, those of you who watch this show loyally, have seen him here before, but you've seen him all over the place. Is Sean Washington? Sean, welcome, welcome.
Hello, hello. How you doing?
I'm doing
Oh,
well. How
it's
about
good to be
yourself?
back.
It's
Life is beautiful. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. We'll
yeah.
talk a little bit about it. We have tonight's kind of a special thing. We tried this out the last time we were on. We're resurrecting the Mosaic Storytelling Showcase little by little. And tonight we're
Yeah.
going to have Sean grace us with the story, but we want to catch up a little bit because there's just so much going on. For one thing, I really enjoyed watching you get your studio all set up there. For this morning. He's a consummate perfectionist, checking the sound. And me, I throw my laptop down, and you guys probably notice it at home, but I just throw my laptop down, and turn a light on, and here I am. Oh, and I got my background, 1950s Battle Creek downtown here.
Yeah, I'm mighty extra, and I went through 3 cameras trying to get to this spot, so, and I am not happy, but the other camera's doing fine, but I often wonder why am I using the $50 camera instead of using, the $700 camera. It's because I'm a talentless hack, that would be why, but,
Yeah,
I'll get there, I'll get
not
there.
you, not you, not you. Well, so let's catch up a little bit because you just mentioned when we were going into the program that you're no longer with the Substance Abuse Council. That's where you were when I last had you on. But
Mhm.
you're doing a lot, and
Oh,
so fill us in a little bit because it's important work.
absolutely. Back in 2009, I started the Milestone Project. It was my chance to take a I had been working and giving my best to every other organization I've been working for, and finally it came to the point where it made sense for me to do that for myself for once. And I started it, and we did some wonderful things. I mean, I introduced downtown Battle Creek to dubstep, and I had nights jousting on Michigan Avenue. We did like all this great stuff, and I really, really enjoyed it. Um, but it wore me down over time, and by 2013, I was pretty beat up. 2014, I had a lot of personal stuff happen, and so I started working. I needed to not have to be responsible for everything. And so it was great to be able to lean on the Substance Abuse Council to help me kind of get my feet back together. But Dawn Smith was very clear. She was and honest and said, hey, look, I know I don't have you forever because you have bigger things to do. Now, shoe fly. So she kind of was very, very loving and kind and made sure I remembered that my career was not going to end there, that I needed to go ahead and focus. And so I last year I had a whole bunch of like personal change, and I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna change all of the other clothing, I might as well change the job too. And I went back to hustling for myself. So now I'm doing the Milestone Project where I've got contracts and I'm doing work with youth around the community, everywhere from Michigan Job Challenge out in the Fort, which is an amazing program for youth. We're doing arts and social skills for them. I do some contractual work with KCC for soft skills training. I do some absolutely amazing and fun work with the students and staff of Calhoun County high school, and the kids are truly amazing. And I mean, they sit in my mind. I was actually, before we came on the air, for those of you that don't know, I was trying to talk Mac into hiring one of the kids that works out there, I mean, that goes to school there, because she is absolutely amazing. And so I am definitely not putting that into the, out here for everybody to put pressure on him in the library to take on one of my kids. I would never do that. That
That's
would be horrible.
wasted energy because I don't hire anybody at the library. That's above
You
my
are the
pay grade.
man. I am putting my faith and love and trust in you to get this done. You can get this done for me, man. Come on. If I go back there and I do not have a prize for this girl, she is going to kill me. Maybe not kill me, but she's going to make me feel guilty enough. I might actually cut a little piece of my hair off. So I'm doing all that, and also I started a contract with Speak It Forward out of Kalamazoo,
Seen
Michigan.
that. I've seen some of that. Yeah. Talk about that a
Yeah.
little bit. That's great stuff.
Yeah, speaking forward, it started. Kinetic Effect was Kurt Latimer and Gabriel Jerome,
Right.
and absolutely super dynamic. Like the stuff they did, they had been across the nation, and when they little most people don't realize that when they first got started with Speaking Forward, one of the first gigs that they did was with me at the juvenile home. I did a thing called Summer Milestones out there, where I would introduce the youth to a whole bunch of different things. And one of the things that I introduced them to, I heard that they were doing some stuff. I expected, they might be okay with what they did. And I invited them out and I did my spiel, and all the kids were like, "Oh, you're so good, Mr. Washington. You're the best. You're the best." I'm like, I know, I know. And then I brought these guys on the stage and they crushed it. I
Yeah.
mean, they completely destroyed me. And I'm like, okay, so you're a lot better at this than I am. We need to partner. And so we partnered for about a year, and their star was just so ascendant. It was just rising so fast. I was like, I really want to focus on Battle Creek. I really want to help these kids that I've been called to serve. And they just took off and flew. Well, last year with COVID, out of the blue, Kurt wasn't feeling well, and then he went in the hospital and he was gone.
Yeah.
And
Such a
the
tragedy.
void, yeah, we all just felt this void. And I reached out to Gabriel and said, "Hey, I know that now is not the time, but later, if let's have a conversation on how I can help, because you guys were there for me when I first started. You helped me get my grounding. You helped give me confidence and faith in myself, and I'd be glad to return that." So I got some ideas, and let's work with it. And I've kind of shuffled to the back burner. About 4 months later, he hit me up and said, "Hey, so I got this gig working for a school. I was thinking you'd be perfect to partner with this on." And we did one gig together virtually, which was, but we got it done. And afterwards, I was like, This is like working with." It was it was like we had been working together for years. It was just so natural. It was easy. We did a couple more gigs, and like the jokes, he's abusing me, and I'm realizing that he's a lot better at abusing me than I am. So it just made sense. And I was like, okay. He goes, "Hey, we've got a contract that we can offer you to kind of work with us and see if we can develop some stuff." And we've been hustling for the last year. Um, Getting things going. I really believe it's gonna be nice. We're gonna keep going for a couple years and see what happens.
Right.
My goal is that worldwide domination. I really want us to go ahead and completely own the speaking circuit throughout the entire world. I think that's what we're here for, and everyone should have to hear our message at least 5 times.
Yeah.
So that's what we're pushing for. So
Gotta
that's
think bigger, Sean. You gotta think bigger. Yeah,
true, true,
Stephanie,
because there is a universe out there.
we're big fans of uh, Kirk and Gabe as well at the library. So much missed. Talk a little bit about what drives you in this work, the work that you
Oof.
do, milestones with Gabe now, some of the other work that you've been doing.
You know, the I am proudly Losteen Washington's baby boy. I am overjoyed My some of the best memories of my life is getting myself into a situation that was such a huge bite, and looking at my mom when she realized this fool is going to pull this off. He's actually going to do this, and the look and the feeling of just being having a parent that's proud of you, right?
Yeah.
She passed away, and I realized that she was just preparing me for this part of the journey where she couldn't necessarily be here physically with me, but that spirit was good would stick with. So the thing that drives me more than anything else, to be fully honest, is I just don't want the universe to regret putting me down here. I don't know exactly why I'm here. I don't know what all that is in store for me, but I'll be danged if I'm not going to grab a hold and do the best I can. So I look at the youth that I serve and realize so often that they have been marginalized, they have been made to feel cheap and small, and I grew up feeling that way. And when I was at my darkest as a child, there was nobody there to reach out a hand. And now I represent not just me when I go into a room and I talk to youth or I talk to parents or wherever the winds blow me into. I don't represent me anymore. I realize now that I represent legion. There are millions of people that are just like me that live through things that maybe they if they had an option they wouldn't have lived through. Well, people that have had to do things and had to experience things that just left them feeling broken or hurt and feeling alone. And now because we've done our work, we've gotten help, we've learned how to reach out and get support. And now we're turning around and looking at youth that are going through things that are similar and going, hey, before you think about anything else, I need you to remember first, you will never walk alone unless you choose to, because we're here for you. Never forget us. But they're good at hiding. And so I feel like part of my job is to get them to realize that, like, if they don't raise their hand and say, I'm one of you, then we'll never know because they're excellent at hiding because so were we. So I feel like my calling is to help and make sure that people can if I can't connect them out, well, I guess a better way for me to put this is milestone. Milestone spelled Milestone, and that stands for my life started with one. It was one teacher that stopped me and said, "Hey, no, go back there and do it right." It was one coach that was like, "I know you can't swim. That's why I'm gonna throw you in the water, and we're gonna get you to learn how to prolong drowning." I don't know if I ever learned how to swim, but I can definitely stretch the process of drowning out for a good hour or so. Back in the day, now I got about 20 seconds, like 15 strokes, and I'm like, I'm done. But it was all of these people that just stepped up and just gave me the little bits, and they changed the course and pitch of my life. And so, as under the milestone label, I'm trying to do the same. I'm trying to put people in contact. If I can't be the person that creates change for these folks, then I just want to be the bridge. I want to, if I can find the people that can help the other folks and put them together, then I've served my purpose. I really enjoy that the majority of things that I feel the most pride, I guess. I don't really want to use that word. I hate it, but I'm gonna use it anyway. The things I feel the most wonderful about are the things that no one knows that I did. The places where I walked really lonely into a room and said, I'm not even here to fight for me. This doesn't even impact me. But the people I do represent, I will not lose for them. So,
No.
I'm on the school board for Marshall Academy. In that same vein, most I walk in the building and most people are like, "Who's that guy?" Not even realizing I'm the treasurer of their school board. I love being able to help in any capacity, and I just want to make sure that Lois baby boy she's proud of him, and that the universe never looks and goes, "Why do we send that guy down here?" Jeez, OP, all I did was play video games. Ugh. I did play my fair share of video games. I gotta admit, like the Switch is definitely well used.
It's close
Um,
by, just in case
oh
I
yeah,
bore you here. Uh,
oh
so I wanted to talk a little bit, that yeah, that the power of knowing that you're not alone. Um, you stepped out at a time when a lot of people were really feeling alone. When we were cut off from our friends, we were cut off from our family. when we were cut off from all the things that gave us comfort. And we talked about this, geez, a couple of months ago about finding
Mhm.
the courage to just step out and do it. How
Oh, yeah.
important do you think that is? And how is it more difficult, or is it easier, or is it about the same? You said that kids there, they do a good job of hiding. Has the dynamic changed, or is it the same?
You know, for me, it's like leaping into the void, when it comes to employment. I've always I make the joke, I work like a Jamaican, or I collect jobs like Pokemon. I got to catch them all. Um, I've always felt uncomfortable when I've only had one job. Like at this point, I'm working three different categories of jobs, and I'm always looking for a fourth. The Symphony was another opportunity for me to stretch out. I'm looking at doing voiceover work because I just get really, really anxious about making sure I can provide for my family. And I'm an expensive dude. Like I have some expensive tastes. My computers need to be updated regularly. So I've always really worried about my financial security. So when it comes to like just making that leap, it was hard because it was my stable base money, but it was easy because I've always been able to lean on me. I've always been able to say, you know what, I'm gonna figure a way out. Like it doesn't matter. Like my kids will never starve. I will never starve. We're gonna be all right because I'm gonna hustle and make this happen. I think for kids nowadays, especially kids that have dealt with things that I dealt with. I had a father who was addicted to alcohol, and he spent his entire life addicted to alcohol and ventured into some other stuff lightly, but not much. But alcohol was plenty. Like that's all he really needed to, and that was enough to really tear up my life, you know, and jack up my childhood. Um, And most people didn't even know. They just assumed that the quiet kid in the back was my way of dealing, but the quiet kid, I was hiding pain. I remember when I was a senior in high school, Randy May. I will remember her name for the rest of my natural life because Randy May at Battle Creek Central High School pulled my records and said, "Hey, Sean, can I see you for a minute?" And I asked, "What do you need?" She goes, "I noticed that you signed up for every basic class you could get your hands on. Basic math, basic English, basic world history, every basic class. Did you think they were going to be easy?" I was like, yeah, because I'm a senior and I don't want to work. I want to just like kind of coast through." And she's like, "Yeah, about that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to move you all to AP classes because you were scoring in the 95th percentile in the CAT." They remember the CAT test way back in the day? Yeah, 95th percentile and all that, and you're taking basic skills. Yeah, not gonna happen. You're gonna push and you're gonna push yourself and you're gonna learn how to stretch. And I was like, but I'm a senior. I should be learning how to skip school. You're not gonna tear up my senior year, are you? She tore up my senior year. Suddenly I was in all AP classes and they were no joke. They were ripping my soul out. And it was the best experience of my life because well, one of them, because she was one of the first people in a long time that actually saw me, that actually stopped and went, "No, you don't get to hide in plain sight. I see you. You're right there. Now let's work together." And I think nowadays kids have more of a capacity to do that because of technology. We all sat back and learned how much we could literally hate Zoom through COVID. And in that time, we had kids that sat down in their basement without any interaction from anyone else and played Fortnite, right? They played video games. They sat on TikTok. They watched YouTube videos that had no educational value whatsoever. And tried not to eat Tide Pods or something. I don't know what they did. But the bottom line is they didn't have any access to those protective factors. None of the things that can help them, like, just the consistent social interactions, all that stuff was absent for them. And but what was there, if which many people forget, was vape products, and they vape their fool heads off. So, and the worst part about that is it can be done so clandestinely, people don't even realize it. So we have a generation of kids that have lost 2 years of their life as far as social like skill building, as far as developing their emotional capacity to deal with the day-to-day happenings, and had nicotine products shoved into their hands way too early and already are picking up addictions.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for them, I think kids nowadays, the struggle is real for them. And I don't, if you go out there right now and you say, hey, I've got a kid that's addicted to cocaine, man, you got all types of support coming in. People are right there. You go, I got a kid that's drinking too much. Man, they're zooming in with support. You got a kid that's addicted to nicotine. I challenge you, find something to help them. Find a cessation class. Find anything that can help them quit. Matter of fact, if you're an adult, find something to help you quit smoking besides just strong will.
Yeah.
But we're talking about 13-year-old babies. I got 40-year-old friends that cannot quit smoking. I got 60-year-old friends that can't quit smoking. Why do we think a 14-year-old can quit vaping by themselves or that we can beat it out of them? They need our help. If not for the vaping, for how do you make friends again? How do you go to a dance and not wallflower the whole time? How do you leave and not have so much anxiety walking out the door that you walk out and walk right back in? They are, and so many parents nowadays, we're in this state of fear, constant fear. There's always something to be afraid of. And if you're not sure, just turn on the TV or go on social media and they'll tell you exactly what you should be afraid of. And so we've got parents that are like, I would rather have my kids home with me and where they're safe. And that message to the kids that outside is dangerous and things out there are trying to hurt you. And your parents are trying to keep you safe by keeping you inside. But how does that help us in the future generations? Where are our future plumbers and electricians and tradespeople? Because that's what we need. And if they can't even go work in your house because they're too afraid to leave their own.
Mm.
I think we as a community have a responsibility if we want to be able to sustain this community and the great things that are here, the beauty and the majesty that is Battle Creek, because we are a very unique town. If we want to be able to maintain that, man, we have got to stop and figure out what are we going to do to support our babies, and how do we help these the little ones to become bigger ones, and how do we help that 17 to 24 demographic, how do we give them something to do besides, thinking of all the things that they shouldn't be doing and all I won't get too far into that because this is a good family show, but our 17 to 24-year-olds definitely are finding way too many things that may not help them move forward in their future to do with their free time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, if I had social media on now, I'd put up a heart emoji for you. But I want to pivot, because we advertised you're going to tell a story. So I want to talk a little bit about the value of story, and being seen, and not being alone, because I think that those are all themes that we talk about when we talk about storytelling. Am I
Oh,
right?
absolutely. 100%. 100%. I mean, even me and you, like, I've known you for, man, I would say, at least a decade or two. Like,
Yeah.
we, back in 2007, 8, 9, when the gang stuff was really booming, that's when I really first kind of got put, shoved together with you. And, but it wasn't until we started trading stories that I finally went, oh, I kind of like this guy. Like, he'd be a kind of guy like me and him can like break bread. I'm like, this dude's kind of cool. I just saw you in this professional light. And then once oh, he's got personality on top of personality. I like this dude, but that's the process of storytelling. That's how we get to know each other, how we connect. It's through telling stories. And it's always been that way.
Yeah.
You get around a fire and the first thing that happens is, someone goes, "Hey, you want to hear a story?" That's just what we do. So it storytelling is always connected. It's always helped us heal even. I mean, in our showcases, one of the things I say every time is, if I cut my hand and it starts bleeding, I put a boo-boo pad on it, which most likely will have Garfield on it because those are the best. And then like it'll finally kind of scab over and for a while it'll kind of hurt, but then the scab will fall off finally, and you'll see a little bit of a scar there. And over time, that little itty bitty scar will disappear, and then it'll finally just be a kind of a faded little mark. But I can't say I'm fully healed from that until I can tell you the story of how I got that little mark without wincing when I tell it. Like, when we tell stories, it's part of the healing process. To say you're finally through something in your life where something has done you harm, where you felt hurt, you're not fully through it until you can tell the story on what happened without revisiting the pain of that. And I think that's even with the youth that we work with, that's part of it, is keep telling that story. I know it happened, and keep telling that story until you've taken all the power out of the story. And now the only thing left is the power of your voice saying, I experienced this and I withstood it. I am not beaten by this. I have survived and I will continue forward. That's what storytelling does for people.
Yeah.
And it just, for me, it is absolutely a necessity. Not only have I made a career of doing it, because I've been doing it my entire career by far, but it also has helped me make friends like you, make a lot of friends like that are in the chat, um, to develop beautiful and powerful and meaningful relationships, and survive horrid breakups. Like, all of that comes together in storytelling in a way that just no other medium, for my experience, can even come close to it. It just is a amazing way of transferring knowledge, information, and learning to the other. I love it. It's my thing.
Great.
It's my jam.
So let's hear a story. Do you want to talk about it a little bit? Have you decided? You said you had two that you weren't sure which one you were going to tell.
And so I have to tell the one as a tribute to my neighbor. Um, he Oh my goodness. When I moved into this home about, almost about 14, 15 years ago. And I moved in, and Eric and Aiko lived next door to us. And when I first saw them, they were, Aiko is like this tall and she is full spitfire. And Eric is like the exactly what you expect. The guy that's behind going, don't make her mad. It's all good. And then she laughs and it's infectious, and I just fell in love with them. And so the story I have to tell, that I have to tell, because it's something I just want to make sure is out there in the universe, so people understand, like, not only the just how amazing and beautiful and wonderful my next door neighbors were, but also to when we start thinking about what is community and how do we, back in the day, when you talk about your neighborhood, we weren't talking about like the neighborhood on social media. We were talking about that person that lived right across the street, that you knew more of their business than half the time they did. When they got a package, you knew, oh, it's must be someone's birthday, because you saw that UPS coming up there. We knew our neighbors. We cared about our neighbors. And I think that with social media, it's diffused our contact with our neighbors in a way that we it's just not the same anymore for a lot of people. But I absolutely still love mine. So I just wanted to tell a story that would give you all an idea of why I love Eric and Aiko the way that I do. So
All right. Well, then we're going to put you up solo. Ladies and
oh,
gentlemen, I give you Sean Washington. And feel free in the comments, if you're so inspired, to share what you like about it, and also what kind of questions it sparks in you. So
right
who
on.
has some questions?
Are we all good?
You're on.
Sweet. All right. Ooh, nothing to see there. That wasn't anything. Don't worry about that. Okay. All right. So, um, when I moved here, I wanted to be the great neighbor. I wanted to be that neighbor that, like, everyone talked about and was like, oh, he's such a good neighbor. Look at his yard. It's so manicured. It looks so good. And I had this vision of what that would be like. And then I had the reality of having, four kids, and how little time I actually had. But so I couldn't quite raise myself up to that level, but I sure was going to try. And the first winter that we had was one of those winters that was just ridiculously cold, lots of snow. So in that moment, I got up first thing in the morning. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be that neighbor that goes out and gets their sidewalk shovel and their driveway shovel first. So then, to set that standard, let everyone know, hey, look, I'm here. I'm showing up appropriately. It's gonna be all good. So I start bundling up and I start getting all my stuff together. And I look outside because there's this loud noise. And I look and I see on the street a guy in this giant like snowmobile suit. And he's walking slowly with a nice orange snowblower. And as he's moving slowly down the street, doing every sidewalk. And when he comes up to our house, he turns and goes up the driveway and actually does a little piece of our driveway so we can get a car out. And he turned up into our walkway and actually blew some of the snow out so then the mailman could get up to our front door to deliver the mail. And I was like, this is amazing. This guy is incredible. He is the best. And I went and I made a pot of coffee and I got my coffee and I looked out there with coffee in a hand and I waved at him. It was like, thank you, Eric. You're great. He was like, "Ah." And I could notice that he had snow building up in his beard and mustache. And it looked cold, but he was troopering through it. And I just sat back thinking, this guy is incredible. Well, I saw he was out there and it was cold and he was going to be out there for a little while. So I went ahead and put on the last bits of my gear and I went out there with my shovel and I shoveled, so as he was doing the sidewalks, I did the walk ups to people's houses all the way up the street and on both sides. So everyone had everything done and it only took me like maybe 15 minutes and he was out there for more like an hour, but it only took me 15 minutes. So I was pretty happy with it. And it went like that throughout the entire winter that year. And at the very end of the winter, he said, "Hey, my daughter just got a new snowblower, and she gave me her old one, and I have mine." And I thought, "Hey, would you like it? I could just give it to you. I mean, I don't want to just throw it out because it still works great. You see, you can just have it." And I thought, what a great guy. This guy's the greatest neighbor ever. Like, I don't deserve a neighbor this amazing. Like, how? Oh, my heart grew three sizes that day, right? And I was just excited. And so the rest of the week, I was sitting there with this new snowblower, and I was waiting. I'm waiting for it to finally snow, and finally get enough snow. And I was watching the news, and finally, I read that the snow was coming in that day. And it was going to be a good one. There's going to be 6, 8 inches. I was like, yeah, snowblower's coming out. And sure enough, snow dropped, just sheets of snow, just heavy, wet, nasty snow. I'm like, boom, I got this. This is awesome. I'm going out here. So I geared all up, got up way early, geared fully up, went out there, pulled 3 times, bang, snowblower starts up automatically. And I'm like, this is going to be incredible. And so I start snow blowing around and I did the driveway and then I did my walk up and then I did the sidewalk and then I went to his house and I did his sidewalk and I did his walk up and a little bit of his driveway and I went to the next and the next and the next. And as I moved through the neighborhood, I looked over at his house and I saw Eric in the window with a cup of coffee in his slippers and robe waving at me. And then I realized Eric is a lot smarter than I am. Oh, he is a lot smarter than I am because I had been played. He had won, and I was cold, and I got to do that that was my gig. So for the rest of the time that Eric and Aiko graced us with their presence here in the neighborhood, each winter I would pull out that snowblower, and Eric would sit there with that cup of coffee, wave politely as I went up and down the street. And they've moved in with their daughter and all these things have changed, but the one thing that has not changed is 3 pulls later. Well, every time it snows, I'm out there hooking up the neighborhood because that's what he would do. And I feel like that's what I should do. That's a good tradition to carry on. So that's my snowblower story.
Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Right.
Well, what did I like about it? Well, I liked that. I felt like I was right there with you. I can just picture the snow. I can picture you in your ridiculous gear.
I should have worn my union suit. I've got a red union suit but I really don't want to mess up your viewership because if they see me in my union suit with a flap in the back and everything, yeah, don't want to stay on. We'd lose the whole stream.
So the only question I have: does he ever beat you out the door? Yeah.
Over the years, he occasionally would. I think he liked to do the snow blowing thing. So he would occasionally beat me out there. And then we had other neighbors move in, and they started doing it as well. This year, I only had to go out once, and before I can even get my snowblower going, the guy down the street had his going and was already going and looking at me like mine's bigger than yours. It's gonna work better. Ah, ha, ha, ha. So I'm not competitive at all, but I might have to get a new snowblower because he can't have a bigger snowblower than me. But so I'm looking for next year because and I might paint flames on the side of my snowblower just to outdo him by one step. But yeah, so it's part of, I think, for those of us that live in this neighborhood, I think it's this neighborhood's just always been very unique. Remember when we had the straight line winds and
Yeah.
they
Sure do.
came. Oh, the this neighborhood, the winds hit and like trees were falling on and people were locked in their house by trees. And within 20 minutes, folks came out with chainsaws, cleared everything out. We cleared out our freezers and we had a street party and cooked up all the food that would go bad. And we celebrated that we all came out of it safe. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the neighborhood I live in. Like, they're just good people on this street. And I don't know if everyone can say that anymore, but I know that I can. They have a good heart. There's great people that I live near, and I'm happy. I'm happy to be part of this community,
Yeah.
even my little community on this street, but also the bigger community.
Yeah.
I could have left a long time ago, but Battle Creek keeps sucking me back in just by having people that I truly love.
Yeah, but you go looking for them too, right? I mean, if you step out and
Yeah.
look for it, for the most part, you can find it.
Oh yeah, and they make they're easy to find. They're for for every time you're looking and going, there's no weirdos in this world. There's no one that does anything interesting, and then Jeremy Andrews pops up out of a bush and goes, "Hello," and okay. There's at least one weirdo in this space, So it's fun. It's fun.
So one of the reasons that we're doing this, and I put up the Mosaic Storytelling Showcase Facebook page. We, and when I say we, I mean the whole crew. Dick Strader, who checked in a little bit ago,
Woo.
Miguel Mollis, Annie Kelly. I could go on and on. Um, we want to cultivate a culture of storytelling in this town, and we want to invite people to be a part of it. So you can learn a lot by going to Facebook if you're a Facebook person, and learn
We
about
the old
the
folks.
Storytelling Showcase. And in the coming weeks, we're going to be planning some workshops to help people. I mean, it's nerve wracking. Sean, you do it so easily now,
Oh,
um, but it wasn't easy the first time, right?
oh
Or the
no.
second time, or the third time, maybe.
And again, I did it for a living. I was telling stories. And that's the way that I teach. I teach out of stories. So, like, I was telling stories nonstop. And then I went over to do this with Mosaic, and that was I was sweating buckets. If you look at the recording of that show, I actually changed shirts halfway through that show because I pitted out completely. I was such a wreck. Didn't help that I also had the flu, but it was just such a emotionally I didn't understand what it was like to stand up and speak the truth. You
Yeah,
know, it was great. It was
yeah.
truly great.
But
And
the nice thing about the Mosaic is you become a part of the community, and they walk with you. And
Mhm.
we have a comment from somebody that they remembered you from Athens. You told me that.
Oh,
Tell me about that.
Athens was such an amazing experience. Oh, the we expected like tens of people to show up. Like we expected like, okay, so they'll be basically the storytellers and their family. And that and we as we were getting everyone ready for that, we were like, oh, it'll never worry. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about that. And it'll just be the people that love you. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about a big crowd. There's never been a big crowd. The day of the show, I look out there and there's not an empty seat in the venue. I'm like, well, so the people that love you, it's just a few more than you may have anticipated because the entire town of Athens was in the venue. And it was just like I'm obviously like I enjoy my attention. with that gig, honestly, I was so happy to just step back and watch them, like, tell each other stories and use the opportunity to heal and hold each other and just come together as a community. I haven't ever been part of something that caused that many goosebumps on me and Michelle and Nicole. And we just afterwards, we just all kind of looked at each other like, what did we do? Like, did we do something like epic? I think we did. I think this was epic. I think their stories really got it was I would love to do something like that. If I could reproduce the Athens experience, I in a heartbeat with no hesitation. It
Well,
was
let's set a goal.
incredible.
Michelle checked in with a question. Did Eric ever directly acknowledge that he played you in good fun?
Of course, because like I said, he was smarter than me. Of course. We and he and I like what I loved about this guy is we our relationship was like, do you remember what was the show Home Improvement? Like, all of a sudden I would look and I would see like his eyes over the top of the and like, hey Sean, how you doing? Hey, Ariel. And we would have these conversations. So we talked about everything from science fiction to politics to why my grass always looks so crappy and his looks so much better. Like we talked about everything. So yeah, he had plenty of opportunity and took every opportunity to rub in that he outwitted me there. And that my dog, my mastiff that I was owned by for a long time, my mastiff loved him.
Yeah.
Like I would be like, Ramsey, come back here. And Ramsey like, forget you, Eric's outside, and run straight over and just lean and cuddle. And
Aw,
Eric would just pat him. It was just he
sweet.
the perfect neighbor, like the neighbor that you want. That's what Eric was for us. And so
Sweet.
he warms my heart.
And Dick checking in again. He really liked the story as well. And
Right.
I can't remember if I put Wanda up, colleague at the
Oh,
library.
thank you.
And actually, uh, Michelle asked this earlier, and I let it go because the conversation had turned. But you didn't mention what you did with the symphony. We talked about it before the program, but what did you do for the symphony?
So I love the hey, fun, fun, fun. And oh, here we go into this one. But yeah, it was so during last I guess a couple years ago when all the George Floyd stuff happened and the murder and all that was going on and the Black Lives Matter movement really was picking up steam. I was going through a lot of stuff in my personal life, and I had taken to going for walks just to get out of the house, to like try to clear my head, try to get myself centered back in, and just to try to feel okay. And I walked down the street, and I was going down Capitol Avenue, and I was walking by some of the businesses, and I saw a Black Lives Matter poster in a window, and I walked to the next building, there was another one, and walked to the next one, there was another, and another, and another. And for somebody that's felt invisible for, there I walked these same streets when I was a kid. I lived 2 blocks away from where I grew up, and I felt invisible on these streets when I was young. And as an adult, I still often just that was the default condition. And so suddenly to have all of these businesses and all these people say, "Hey, I see you and you're worthwhile. You deserve to breathe. You deserve to be part of this community." It just was kind of overwhelming to me. It was kind of like, and what I ended up writing a post, and what I was putting in there was just that, like, every day as a black man in I put on my armor and prepare myself for the beating that I'm gonna take, whether emotionally or physically, or I don't know what's coming in the day, but I do know that pain has always been part of it. And so I armor up and I get ready for it. And then I walk down the street and I was like, maybe I don't need to put the armor on anymore. Maybe, maybe it, maybe we're finally at a point where people care. And maybe I am worth something. And so I wrote that down, and Ann Harrigan found it and read it and said,
And Harrigan, the
from yeah,
conductor of the Battle Creek Symphony.
yeah. and she said, "Hey, would you think about narrating a portion of a symphony?" And I said, "Oh, let me think about it. Yes, yes, I will. Yes, I will." Because again, Lostein's baby boy, opportunity to be in a symphony, you better believe, because who I don't know other people that have done that. So I wrote a piece and they took it and they edited it up and they put it in a symphony and they said, okay, read. And so I got to read my original piece for the symphony as part of as the fifth movement of Hold On America. And that was, and the best part of it was I've always tried to make sure that I've done some type of public proclamation, something to remind my kids that I love them, that I'm trying to do better than my father did, and that I want to be a good example. When you look at social media, you look at movies and TV shows, the joke of, "Oh, dad's leaving to go get milk and cigarettes, he'll be right back," and then he never comes back. That's a joke, but the thing that makes something funny is that it's 80% true and then 20% made up. And that truth, like, I never wanted my kids to think of that as a possibility, that there would be a point where I would walk away and not come back, because that was a possibility for me and my father. Um, so I wanted to make sure that I got a chance to tell them that I love them in public, and that I could that as a man, that's part of what you do, is that you stand for the people that you love, and you don't shy away from feeling, especially positive emotions. So one of the greatest parts of Hold On America is I was able my proclamation, or the piece of prose that I read, was actually a the talk that unfortunately so many parents of color have to give their kids. I was able to give the talk to my son on the stage at WK Auditorium in front of an audience, and not only give it to him so he understood that I want him not just to live, but to love and laugh and keep be in the company of people that will love and laugh with him, and that will see all of him and not just the color of his skin, but also so that they could hear how hard it is to think about someone that you love going through something horrific. And George Floyd's mom, he had a mom, like all of these people, like, the names that you hear over and over, all these people have moms, sisters, aunts, uncles. They have people that love them and that had hopes for them, and none of them wanted to watch them die over a packet, over a loose cigarette, or over a traffic stop grabbing for their wallet. And I look at my son, and it saddens me that I have to, remind him, like, this isn't a game. Like, don't go into this thinking that just because you know me, and the cops in Battle Creek know me well, and the, you've played football, or you've hung out with these guys, you know them, they have love for you. Don't feel that same safety when you leave this community, because I've busted my tail to have this great relationship with them. So maybe you don't feel like you have to worry here, but you move 20 minutes down the street and you are an endangered species. And that is it. To be able to share that moment and have people listen to that and understand what it meant, but also remember that the thing that allows me to give that talk to my son is the fact that in this town, he doesn't walk alone. There are people in this town that are truly are his allies, that will be there to walk with him. And if things get bad, he has support in this town, because there are some good people around here. He just needs to make sure that he treats good people like good people, and people that aren't so great, leave them alone. Stay away from them because they're dangerous. But the good people will help you with them if you need. Just make sure that you keep your allies close, and that you treat them as friend, and don't lump them in with foes just because you it may seem like the in thing to do, but that's not the truth. So, all right, I'm soapboxing and I'm all like messed up in my head. So sorry
Oh,
about that. Like I
okay,
got all
great. I am so sorry I missed it. I
ah.
was out of town, and I wish I could go watch it online. I'd put the link up right here for people to go see it. But thank you for sharing that. I'm just going to put this email address up here right now.
Right
If
on.
you are
I know it.
out there in the listening audience, if you are interested in telling a story, or discovering the story within yourself, or discovering the ability to tell a story, or just to hang out with a great guy like Sean and Dick and others who will help you on that journey, or please drop me an email and watch Willard Library's social media channels, because we will be doing some programming. We have a goal of having another storytelling concert, just like the old days,
Oh,
pre-pandemic,
awesome.
and
Oh, yeah, awesome.
those concerts always attract good crowds, and people love them. So, Sean, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming on, as always, and
Right on.
we'll
Good
do it
times,
again
right?
sometime. Uh, Folks, come back next week. We have, it's not a storytelling, but it is a Stories at Sundown, and we are going to have our guest is Jay Dom, who is the director of Big Homies. Am I getting that right, Sean?
Mhm.
Homies, that's
Yeah.
right.
Good dude, good dude.
Good
They're
dude.
doing great
I
things.
need to write
Awesome.
notes down. Rely on my memory too much, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to have another storyteller.
Ooh,
Dick
who's that?
is coming on.
Nice.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
he that's my mentor. That's my dude. Dick is like, he opened his house to us and gave me, like, that first little nudge and was like, "Yeah, that story sucks, fix it." And it was brutal, but it was honest, and I appreciate it. I'm a better storyteller now for it, by far.
That's right. And I know that Dick did not say that story sucks. And he would probably take exception to you saying it.
He didn't say those
It's all
exact
about
words. What
kudos
he
and
said
questions,
was,
not
"You
story
know, that
sucks.
I have some questions about that story. You know, I think that story could be tighter." He has a
Well,
loving
that's
way
not
of
saying it.
saying, yeah, he was
I
loving about it.
promise,
I felt okay.
as Michelle says, suggest someone you think might be, and I promise no one is going to tell anybody their story sucks. It's never happened with this
Have
group.
you met Nicole? Have you met Nicole? I'm just saying.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Sean, and
Right on.
I look forward to seeing you around. And stick with me while we end this broadcast. Thank you. We had a good crowd tonight. Thank you, everybody, for
Right
watching
on.
this and all your comments. Have a great
Thank
week.
you.